I love talking boxing, and David Duenez is one of my favorites to talk the sweet science with. He is with Leave It in the Ring Radio every Thursday night. They can have a new episode. It comes on 8 Eastern Time, 5 Pacific. LeaveItInTheRingRadio.com. You can find them on Facebook and Twitter as well. Great website. David and Gabriel Montoya do a great job. They have great guests like Steve Kim, fighters, trainers, all kinds of people from the sport of boxing. David and I talk about some fights coming up in September, including Andre Ward and Chad Dawson. Josecito Lopez and Canelo Alvarez will tangle on the 15th, and that same night there will be a pay-per-view with Sergio Martinez and Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. What's next for those guys after their upcoming fights? David and I explore that and more. David Duenez, Leave It in the Ring Radio on the Sports Buffet Podcast. Always, I feel like I'm blessed and honored anytime I have David Duenez on. He is the host of Leave It in the Ring Radio. You can hear it on Thursday nights at Leave It in the Ring Radio's website, and we'll talk about that in a few moments. But, David, the summer has seemed kind of slow with the exception of the Olympics, but September is really going to make up for it. What one fight are you most excited about coming up in the month of September?
You know, Sergio Martinez and Julio Cesar Chavez right now, it has to be on the top of my list, you know. But I'm warmed up to the Canelo Josecito Lopez fight, even though, you know, I've said it from the beginning when the fight was announced. Was I in agreement of Canelo and his associates picking Josecito? I wasn't, but I did say that, you know, Josecito is by far probably the best opponent that Canelo's facing, even though he's jumping up to weight division. So I expect them to give him a good run for Canelo's money and for the people that are going to be suckered into going out to that event. But, you know, the undercard is almost kind of making up for it, too, as well.
You know, Sergio Martinez and Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., a lot of people might have looked at that, you know, like a mismatch a while back because I don't think Chavez Jr. was impressive to many, but since he's kind of gotten Freddie Roach on his side, he's looked a lot better. What have you seen in Chavez Jr. lately that makes you think that he's more of an exciting fighter, or did you always think he was kind of that way?
Never thought he was an exciting fighter. I mean, you know, let's be honest. If his last name wasn't Chavez, if it was Sanchez or was something else, nobody would really care. Has Freddie Roach added anything? No. The only thing that's been added to the arsenal of Chavez Jr. is his weight. That's it. You know, Steve Keelan had him on last week, and, you know, he reported that, you know, Chavez is really not that frequent with Freddie Roach. I mean, you know, Freddie Roach to me, has become a more of a brand name, you know. It's like, you know, it's like buying a patent name, and then you just stamp it on it, you know. I don't know how much Freddie's input has been put into Chavez, you know. Last thing I heard was from Steve Kim from Max Boxing. You know, he told me he's you know, Freddie Roach looked at him and says, I'm not leaving L.A. until Chavez is there, until it's confirmed. He is there at the mansion in Las Vegas. So the change of why we're more interested is because here's the thing. Here's the major fact is Julio Cesar Chavez is a big Mexican kid. And Sergio Martinez, he's not fighting a middleweight. He's fighting a light heavyweight. That's what makes it a little bit more competitive and stuff, you know. But I also, I am seeing a little bit more glimpse of Julio's father, you know, in him. You know, the bobbing of the head, you know, squatting down, looking for the body shots. I mean, he does very good, subtle things. And he's been a little bit more consistent. So that's why I say this is a much more intriguing match. You know, how well does Martinez do against a much bigger guy? How well does he do to a guy that is going to try to go to the body? And then vice versa. How well is Chavez Jr. going to respond to the speed and the left-hand stance? That's something he hasn't really faced, you know. He's been getting, you know, like the Andy fighters of the world and stuff for guys that are really just outclassed and outweighed, and they're going to be there to be hit and stuff. So Chavez's timing is going to have to be everything in this fight. So that's what makes it really interesting, you know. And like I said last week, win or lose, as long as Chavez gives a good performance, he's not a star. He's a franchise, and that franchise is just going to get bigger.
Sergio Martinez, I think, kind of got a lot of claim to fame in terms of maybe not the I call it Joe fan of boxing, who, you know, basically knows like the Pacquiaos, the Mayweathers, and so forth. But I think he kind of raised his stock a little bit with maybe Joe fan when he knocked out Paul Williams with that second fight that they had. How good is Sergio Martinez in your opinion?
I think honestly, I think he's probably by far one of the best middleweights we've seen in a very long time. I mean, he's definitely a guy that's going to stay around, you know. I've always liked a guy that is going to come out and his performance are always going to be steady. You know, Martinez is one of those guys. He's got speed. He's awkward. And I think what people too, you know, that some people don't tune into Martinez. They say, oh, he's boring. You know, you can't get this guy out of there. But look at his conditioning, and his power stays with him. Name me one champion right now that their power stays from first round all the way to the 12th round. And he's able to take guys in the 11th or in the 12th. You know, Martinez is probably by far right now the only champion that can do that. Manny Pacquiao can't do that. Floyd Mayweather can't do that. You know, so his stalking, what you said about the Paul Williams, yeah, he got that 15 minutes of fame, and it did die out, and it's just due to being marketed the way he was marketed. It was just terrible. Lou DiBella is a great guy, and he does great things for the sport, but when you have the networks that are against you, they don't see what you see. It's really hard to market him. So I wouldn't put all the blame on Lou DiBella. I would put the blame on the suits in the networks because they just don't see. They didn't see the commodity that this Martinez brought. They looked at the age. They didn't look at the fine wine that he produces. They looked at the age. They looked at the label and they saw the number of his age and they shied away from it. And right now, I guarantee you, they lost a chance of really building a superstar. Martinez should be a superstar. He should be able to have that level. You know, he's the champion, and he's fighting Julio Cesar Chavez, who only brings a fame name. He didn't credit himself to be in that fame spot.
I know in a few of Sergio's HBO fights lately, you know, he's kind of got the knock, and I don't know if this is fair or unfair. We'll get your opinion on it, of kind of being, you know, a slow starter, like, you know, where's all his skills, where's all his power early, but, you know, like you said, house of fire towards the later rounds, he just doesn't die. Does he need to start fast against Chavez, and do you think he kind of, I hate to use the term throws away early rounds, but do you think he kind of has that mindset a little bit?
If I was his advisor, if I was a guy that was in his corner, I would say fight your own fight. Fight the fight that's been getting you the wins, you know. The reason is because same thing with Martinez. He's fighting guys that are in the same weight division. What Chavez is not. You know, Chavez is coming in as a light heavyweight, so he can really sacrifice going in early, and that's what his game plan is going to be. Why? Because he's going to make the smaller guy work harder, throw more punches, and it tires them out so that he can get in that KO. Martinez has got to be on his toes. He's got to be intelligent. He's got to understand. He's got a raging bull coming towards him. He's got to be the matador, and he's got to tire out the bull. And that's the only way, I think. I think that'd be the smartest way, is to stick to what you've been doing time after time after time. Make the younger kid make those mistakes, you know. Make the younger kid work for his combinations. Make him work for cutting off the ring. You know, let's see how much footwork he has. Let's see how well he moves his head. Let's see if he has a jab. Let's see if he can throw combinations with a moving target. And those are things that need to be answered. We know what Martinez can do. We just don't know what Chavez can do. And I don't think Chavez knows his capabilities right now. And he's on a level right now. This is the top of the echelon of levels of being a great fighter. We're going to find out everything we need to know on September 15th.
We'll get you back on to make picks much closer to the fight. But final question with Sergio and Chavez. Does Sergio have, I hate to say he has nothing to lose, but I think Chavez has a lot more to lose than Sergio. Agree?
You know what? In terms of calling him a champion, absolutely. You know, if he loses, we're all going to sit there and go, well, we told you he was rushed and he wasn't yet ready to be labeled a champion. You know, he's a prospect with a championship belt. I mean, he's got some fights. I know the excuse of, well, he didn't have an amateur, you know, background and learning on the job. I'm fine with that. But when you put a strapping WC belt around your waist, guess what? Now you got to play. You got to play with the big boys. You know, it's just like a young kid. He's 18 years old. He gets his girlfriend pregnant. You're playing house. There's no such thing as playing house. It's now that you got to pay up and owe up to the debt that you brought in your home. So all that to me goes out the door. He loses, then we just go back and go, this is why you should have put a belt on a prospect. This is the reason. These are the outcries that we had as fight fans. Now, does it hurt him any other way? I don't think so. Like I said, as long as he gives a good effort, I don't see the Mexican fans shying away from him. I see they're going to stick with him, you know. Mexican fans are just like Puerto Rican fans and Irish fans. You know, they don't turn their backs that easy.
What do you see next for these guys, win or lose?
Win or lose, that's a good question. I think Chavez can go anywhere else. If he loses this fight, you're going to probably see him go back to that old trend of fighting some club fighters. Martinez, he's, sad thing about it is that he's going to be exactly where he started at in the beginning, which is, rarely unknown and struggling to get some fights on TV.
Could you see Chavez Jr. maybe at some point soon, if he wins the fight, taking on the winner of one of those other September fights that we have with Ward and Dawson?
I could honestly see that happening. Ward and Dawson are starving to be superstars. And that's the funny thing is that when we talk about super fights, there's a fight there that's really under the radar. You got two in their prime champions, two guys that bring some very top skill level boxing IQs, and they're not talked a lot about right now, and it's just because of the unknown territory that most casual fans don't like to tread in. Win or lose with these guys, Ward, obviously, that would be the fight if he won against Dawson. That would be the fight he should be calling for. It's asking for the winner of that. That's the only way you end up getting to the top. It's the only way you're going to end up being recognized as a household name. Is you got to start calling out guys. Unfortunately, the bigger guys don't have those household names, swimming around in their trend waters and stuff, where the lighter guys are normally known. You got the Pacquiao, the Mayweathers, you got Marquez, you got those names, Morales, so that they can help you be marketed and help you get into the eyes of the casual fans. The bigger guys, they're going to have to do it the old way, the old traditional way, and that's like the way they did it back in the 50s. That's fight anybody, anywhere, anytime.
What's the biggest problem with Ward and Dawson, why they're not household names? Is it style of fight, or is it that they, like you said, don't call out people and, are not the Floyd Mayweathers of the world, so to speak? It's embarrassing, but it's just the way us Americans have now, the arrogance that we have. If we don't have a heavyweight, then we're just not going to market anybody down below. I mean, you really think about it. When's the last time you've seen an African American be pushed in the face of the boxing sport? It's been a very long time. I mean, I believe since the 80s, it's kind of fell off, for the African American fighters. It's really tough for them. They just don't seem to have the same marketability that the Latinos and the whites do in the sport of boxing. So it's sad because they do bring a huge amount of volume in boxing skills. I mean, Ward, kid has a lot, even in his amateurs, he never lost. Chad Dawson brings tremendous skills. To me, he could be boring, absolutely, but if you don't love the sweet science, then you're not going to understand what these guys, their performance and what they do in the ring. When I hear guys go, well, they're boring, we don't care about that, it's going to be more of a chess game, that just tells me then you're just a KO guy. That's all you're looking for. I look for sweet science. I like to see guys that are intelligent, that can figure each other out. Unfortunately, that's just not fan-friendly TV. Let me rewind a little bit, and I'm not trying to get argumentative, but did you say that the American they have not publicized a black fighter as much?
Yeah, it's like we kind of fell off of that. We kind of stopped, and I backed up my brain and go, when's the last time? I mean, a gold medalist. He's a gold medalist. Let's remember that. And he has not been pushed. He's not been endorsed. That's kind of sad, where the other countries, they endorse their bronze medalists, their silver medalists. They endorse that. Right. Where here in the States, we just don't, for some reason, we kind of just shy away from it because we don't have a heavyweight. Maybe if the American heavyweight was back, maybe, just maybe, the African American fighters might get a little bit more print, might get a little bit more love in the media sections, in the newspapers, in the regular, general columns of print.
Right. Well, what about Floyd?
Floyd Mayweather, I mein, you got to remember, he came all the way back, and what did he have to do in order to get that, to get in the faces of fans and the casual fans, Floyd, in the beginning of his career, getting out of the Olympics, a very docile kid. I mean, if you go back and watch his original fights when he was starting off, real docile, he was, they called him a pretty boy, and there was a reason why he had a smile on his face, but then when he realized, you know what, I'm not getting these big fights, I'm not getting that push, I got to revert to something else. And what did he do? He ended up making an alter ego, which is money.
Right.
Money Floyd. And that sells TV. The man in the black hat sells Superman wouldn't be Batman if there wasn't a Joker. You know, Superman wouldn't be Superman if there wasn't a Lex Luthor. And that's what Floyd Money Mayweather did in the sport of boxing. You know, Andre Broner, he figured that out really early in his career, you know. He figured out being the bad guy. And he's doing a fantastic job. The guy now is talked about by how many people. I went to the fight last night for Solo Book Sale to see Alan Sanchez, and I was so surprised at how many people were coming up to me and asking me about Adrian Broner. And these were casual fans. They're like, oh, man, I love to see Adrian Broner fight Robert the Ghost Guerrero. These are two guys in two different divisions, and Broner's being talked about like that. And that's what I mean, is that you got a good, clean-cut Andre Ward, you know, son of God. He's not getting any type of publicity, but then you get one kid that hasn't done nothing in his career. Think about it. He hasn't done jack in his career, and he's being talked about. He has HBO dates. He's getting HBO money, and he hasn't even done anything to really get to that point. That's sad. When you got Andre Ward and Chad Dawson, and Chad Dawson's resume speaks for itself, you know, fought Bernard Hopkins twice, fought the Road Warrior Johnson twice, Pascal, you name it. The guy's been in there, Antonio Tarver twice, and he's not getting those talked about on print, on radio, and publicity. He's not getting any of that. Andre Ward, he wins the Super 6. Guess what? He's also being put in the back burner. That's what's sad, you know, is that we don't embrace the good guy in the sport of boxing. And Americans have kind of dropped that off, too. Look how many Americans kind of, you know, they don't shy away from Floyd Mayweather burning money and being a woman beater, but they shy away from a guy that talks good about his family and that thing well forgotten.
I want to talk about Canelo and Josecito in just 1 second, but off your point, who do you think kind of controls boxing right now? Is it the networks? Is it people like Al Heyman? Is it the promoters? Or is it all three?
I think it's all a combination of all three. You know, as much as we want to put a blame on one particular identity.
Does anybody have a bigger slice of the pie, though? Does anybody have a bigger slice of the pie?
Well, I mean, in terms of Al Heyman, can you really be mad at him? I mean, he gets his fighters paid. He does exactly what he gets paid to do, which is get the best fight and the most money for his fighter. Not for the other opponent, not for the sport. It's for his fighter, his clients. The networks and stuff, I think they're lazy. They don't want to take the time and do their research. You know, when Lou Bella was with HBO and After Dark, I mean, we had some great fights. You know, that he was a fight fan. You get the guys in the suits, you know, Espinoza, you know, who went to Showtime, and he was the lawyer for Golden Boy. What trend did we see there?
Right.
You know, now we're starting to get the Al Heyman fight over there in Showtime. You know, HBO. I think what's going on with HBO, it's almost like the office of government we have. You know, when Barack Obama had to take over what Bush did, it wasn't something he could repair in a year.
Right.
It's not something he's going to repair in a term. It's going to take 2, maybe 3 terms. Same thing when, you know, Greenberg left HBO, and you know, the Showtime president, you know,
Ken Hirschman.
I think his name on now. Ken Hirschman, he goes over there. Guess what? He's cleaning up a mess. You know, he's not just picking up a broom and a dustpan. He's bringing the vacuum. He's bringing in the whole crew. There's a lot of stuff to be cleaned up.
What made again, kind of going off that point, what made it so messy at HBO? I mean, is there one thing that you think was a turning point, or Ross Greenberg just kind of fell asleep at the wheel?
Kerry Davis, Ross Greenberg, let's be honest, they're golfing fans. They're not boxing fans.
Okay.
You know, there's nothing more really to put on that. I mean, you know, when you don't love your job, you neglect your job, right? You know, and that's what they always say. Go to school so you can study, so you can do something that you have a passion for and you love. Well, they do have a passion, you know, and their passion is obviously it wasn't boxing; it was something else. So they just let the ball fall, and they got further and further down the hill. That a man by the name of Al Heyman saw the opportunity, and he did something that everybody else would have done. You would have done it. I would have done it. We picked it up, and we ran with it.
You know, a lot of times, I remember I'm a big baseball fan, and people have always said, you know, a guy like Bob Costas or Joe Morgan, somebody that's a baseball fan, should be the commissioner of baseball to give the fans more what they want. Do we need a guy like a Lou DiBella or somebody else that is a boxing fan back in charge at these networks, and do you think it would ever happen anytime maybe in the next 10, 15 years?
You know, Ken Hirschman, he is a boxing fan. This guy understands. I mean, he's a guy that was being innovative. he decided to bring back something that we used to do back in the 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s, even in the 80s, which was a tournament. Okay, we had the Super Six tournament, we had the Bantamweight tournament. That was something that was great. It was very much needed in the sport of boxing. We have recognizable names out of those tournaments now. Abner Morris is a guy now that a lot of fight fans know about. Andre Ward himself, he's a little bit closer in being a name in the circuit of boxing. So Ken Erskine has the idea. He understands what the fans are asking for. He understands that they're clamoring for more, better fights and stuff. But like I said, you put a new president on the chair, and if that chair has some wear and tear, some paint on it, he's going to have to repair it. So I'm not expecting a whole lot. Not this year. Maybe give it another year, and let's see where we're at. And if it's not, then yeah, I think so. I think we need to start questioning how we're going to, repair what has been done. I mean, it's just not in the networks too. We got to look at the commissioners. We got to look at the alphabet suits. They all intertwine. And they all move like a system. You can't expect the body to function if the heart's bad.
Right. On a grading scale, or either on a scale of 1 to 10, though, how successful do you think the Super Six was?
Was it successful of what we wanted it to be? No, absolutely not. Because here was the thing. They had a time span was 2 years.
Right.
Okay. And the amount of fighters, and when it was announced, I did ask certain questions, I was on that press conference, I was there, and I said, hey, well, what about this person falls out, and how about the money situation, and how about, these things, these little added details that were kind of, well, we're gonna work through it while it goes. Well, we know how things like that happen. When you work with something while it goes, that means that when there is a speed bump, we either go fast over it or we slow down, and sometimes those 1-second decisions, there's going to be repercussions, and we saw the repercussions and stuff. So it was a format that needed to be worked out and situated. Do I see them doing it second time around? I was hoping they would, because I thought that maybe the second time around they figured it out. What they did kind of with the bantamweight division, they shortened out the amount of fighters, and they made it a lot quicker than the Super Six. They dragged that out, and when you drag it out in 2 years, we don't know what's going to happen next month. Why drag something out in 2 years?
Yeah, I think that was the biggest problem. I mean, I think with the people nowadays, David, I think they lose their attention span is very, very short, and it got to the point to where even I couldn't remember who was in the Super Six and how the results went, just because it was so long. But anyway, final topic, real quick, and we'll do this again much more soon, because I always love talking boxing with you. Josecito Lopez and Canelo Alvarez. We kind of touched on it earlier. Josecito, I think, got that fight, obviously, by beating Victor Ortiz. How much of an excitement fight can he give fans with fighting Canelo?
I got to tell you, I think he's going to give him a hell of a fight. Granted, the weight division is not his. He's jumping up in weight like he did with Victor Ortiz. But we got to remember this, that when you got a kid that puts his heart on his sleeve every time out, he's there to fight. But here's the problem. He's fighting a guy that now comes in as a middleweight, day of fight, not day of weigh-in. He comes in as a middleweight day of fight, Josecito, says, I walk around at 170. Well, that's great, what I'm saying? But you could see that his speed is diminished when he moved up to 147. He wasn't as quick. And let's be honest, he's a good fighter. He does things all around good. But there's not one single thing you could sit there and say and point out that he does special or spectacular. Now, the only guys that have been successful in jumping up in weights without even testing the water have been guys that have some special skill level with them. Roy Jones Jr. is one of them. He jumped up and fought, John Ruiz, the quiet man. I kind of had a lean with him. Why? Because he was elusive. He had hand speed, He had blinding speed. He had great, reactions, when you threw a punch at him. He did things that gave us the awe factor. That awe factor is always going to be the upper part of the sport. Manny Pacquiao, when he jumped up, besides the hand pinking and stuff, but he had some awe factors about him that was going to make him a key player in whatever division he decided to jump up. Josecito Lopez, as much as I like him, there is no awe factor about him. There's nothing that's going to, I can sit back and go, well, he can out-jab him with hand speed, or he can out-maneuver him. No, Josecito has a one-track mind. and that's put his heart on his sleeve and go all balls forward.
David, as always, appreciate the time. Tell fans when and where and everything about Leave It in the Ring Radio.
Every Thursday night at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 o'clock Eastern. You can tune in, check us out. You know, we try to do as much as we can. And, 3 hours of boxing talk, man. I mean, if you're an avid boxing fan, you want to tune in and listen, and you can enjoy us, while you're working or while you're driving or while you're outside mowing the lawn. You do whatever, we try to have as many guests as we can get. And we always try to keep it 100% on the show. There's one thing we can honestly tell everybody that tunes in. We're honest. We say the truth, and that's why we pick off a lot of people.
Well, that's why I bring you on here, David, because I know you're no liar. As always, appreciate your time. Can't wait till we do it again.
Absolutely, brother. Absolutely, man. I always enjoy it.